Number 1. Americane Spray. It's the kind of product most of us never think twice about. A small can of Americane 20% benzocaine topical anesthetic spray, tossed in the bathroom cabinet for life's little cuts, itching fits, and mouth sores. But on December 22nd, 2023, that quiet household staple turned into a headline nobody wanted to read. Insight Pharmaceuticals, a branch of Prestige Consumer Healthcare, issued a voluntary nationwide recall of one specific batch, lot code 1A1642, expiring January 2025, after tests revealed something that has no business hiding inside a pain relief spray: benzene, a known human carcinogen. And the plot twist? It wasn't even supposed to be there. Benzene didn't show up in the ingredient list. It slipped in through the propellant, the gas that makes the spray spray. That's like discovering a deadly intruder not through the front door, but hiding in the AC vents. Benzene isn't some trivial lab contaminant you shrug off. It's a ticking time bomb in molecular form. Linked to leukemia and bone marrow disorders, it seeps into the body through inhalation, skin contact, or ingestion, quietly rewriting your cells like a hacker rewriting code. And yet, Insight tried to soften the blow, saying no severe reactions had been reported and calling the recall precautionary. Precautionary? That word hits differently when you're living on Social Security checks and already rationing prescriptions because of cost. How many precautionary recalls have later turned into courtroom dramas and cancer settlements? How many times do regular Americans have to be told, "It's probably fine," only to learn too late that it wasn't? The recall was executed at the consumer level. Stores were ordered to yank the product from shelves, and customers could request refunds if they submitted a photo of the lot code printed on the can's bottom. But the rot in this story goes far beyond one rogue batch. The FDA has been waving red flags over benzocaine products for years. Back in 2011, the agency documented at least 319 cases of methemoglobinemia, a dangerous condition that disrupts the blood's ability to carry oxygen, leading to respiratory failure, tissue hypoxia, and even death. 3 people lost their lives. Just imagine, a spray meant to numb a paper cut can, in rare cases, choke your cells of oxygen from the inside out. And Americane is far from alone in this hall of shame. Other benzocaine-based products like Anbesol, Orochel, and Baby Orochel have all faced FDA scrutiny, particularly in products marketed for babies under 2 years old, where the risks skyrocket. In 2018, Church & Dwight had to recall several Orajel teething products after regulators concluded the risks outweighed the benefits. When you add benzene contamination to that long list of concerns, you're not dealing with a minor issue anymore. You're staring down a systemic problem, a warning that even the smallest, most harmless over-the-counter remedies can hide serious threats. And here's the kicker. Americane isn't a product from pharmaceutical titans like Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer. It's made by a smaller name, yet even they allowed a cancer-linked contaminant to sneak in. That should terrify you more, not less. Because if even the little guys can't keep their propellants clean, how safe are the products from companies churning out billions of units a year? One tainted lot is enough to show how brittle the safety net around over-the-counter drugs really is. A roulette wheel spinning over your health every time you reach for that spray. And if a simple topical anesthetic can hide a carcinogen and trigger a condition that suffocates your blood, what else is lurking unlisted in the medicine cabinet? Maybe it's time to rethink what we trust. Products like Solarcaine, Dermoplast, and Bactine Max, which don't rely on benzocaine, may offer safer alternatives, because at the end of the day, no one should have to play chemical roulette just to soothe the scratch. Number 2, duloxetine. Just when patients thought their daily dose of relief was safe, duloxetine, the widely prescribed SNRI known under the brands Cymbalta and countless generics, landed in the crosshairs of a contamination scandal that shook the pharmaceutical industry to its core. Used not only for depression and anxiety, but also for chronic pain conditions like fibromyalgia, neuropathic pain, and even bone and muscle pain, duloxetine was often the quiet helper in the background of millions of lives. But starting in October 2024, it transformed from trusted ally to chemical suspect when Breckenridge Pharmaceutical, in coordination with Toa Pharmaceutical Europe, announced a recall of over 7,100 bottles of 20 mg delayed release capsules, lot number 22128, expiring December 2024 after detecting N-nitroso-duloxetine, a nitrosamine impurity classified as a potential carcinogen, above the FDA's interim acceptable intake limit. The FDA labeled it a Class 2 recall, indicating possible reversible health consequences. That alone would have been alarming, but it was only the beginning. In November 2024, Rising Pharmaceuticals followed suit, pulling a staggering 233,003 bottles across multiple dosage forms for the same reason. By December, the FDA had issued an official warning highlighting that a total of 233,000 bottles of duloxetine delayed release capsules were implicated, all under the Class 2 recall category for containing cancer-causing nitrosamines. Reports from Verywell Health placed the total number of recalled bottles, combining initial and expanded recalls, at well over 200,000, and the dominoes didn't stop there. In August 2025, Breckenridge, together with Quallent and TOA, announced another recall involving lot number 24019227C, 3,591 bottles of 30 milligram capsules expiring April 2027. Then, in July 2025, MedShadow reported yet another recall of 12,242 bottles of 30-count duloxetine, again due to nitrosamine contamination. Each new wave felt like peeling back another layer of a rotten onion. The more they looked, the worse it smelled. Nitrosamines aren't some mild nuisance. They're gene-mutating compounds capable of causing cancer with long-term exposure beyond safety thresholds. They can form from unintended chemical reactions during drug synthesis, from impure raw materials, or even from improper storage conditions. That means the contamination isn't a freak accident. It's a flashing neon sign pointing to flaws in quality control, manufacturing processes, and supply chain oversight. Authorities ordered pharmacies, distributors, and healthcare providers to inspect stock, stop distributing affected bottles, notify customers, and initiate consumer-level recalls. Yet the FDA urged patients not to stop duloxetine abruptly, as sudden discontinuation of SNRIs can trigger withdrawal symptoms, dizziness, nausea, fatigue, and sleep disturbances, advising instead that patients consult their doctors about switching to unaffected lots. While no confirmed cancer cases or deaths have been directly linked to these tainted batches, the scale and persistence of contamination raise serious alarm bells. If duloxetine, cornerstone prescription produced by reputable companies, can harbor carcinogens, what does that say about the unseen risks lurking in other widely used generics? Scientists and health advocates have openly questioned whether many contaminated lots remain undetected or unreported. Some pharmacists have warned that such massive recalls disrupt supply chains, force costly medication switches, and erode public trust, especially among patients already skeptical about generic drug safety. The reputational damage has been severe. Duloxetine now stands as a cautionary tale of how even trusted medications can fail spectacularly when quality controls slip. It joins a troubling pattern of nitrosamine-related recalls seen in blood pressure drugs like valsartan and losartan, prompting fresh doubts about global manufacturing standards. Critics argue that Breckenridge, Rising, and TOA bear significant responsibility for failing to properly vet raw materials and monitor synthesis steps, allowing carcinogens to slip through the cracks. And here's the part that should send a chill down anyone's spine. Duloxetine isn't some niche drug. It's a cornerstone of modern treatment, woven into the lives of patients managing both mental health and chronic pain. If even this widely trusted medication can turn into a toxic gamble, how many other safe pills might be hiding the same betrayal? For those seeking alternatives, medications like milnacipran, venlafaxine, or desvenlafaxine, which belong to the same therapeutic class but have not faced nitrosamine scandals, may be worth discussing with a healthcare provider, because when your daily medicine might secretly rewrite your DNA, better safe than sorry isn't just a saying, it's a survival strategy. Number 3. Vioxx. It was supposed to be Merck's crown jewel, the painkiller that would change everything. Launched in 1999 with blockbuster fanfare, Vioxx, rofecoxib, was marketed as a new generation of NSAID, one that could crush pain and inflammation without wrecking the stomach the way old-school drugs like ibuprofen and naproxen often did. Doctors prescribed it like candy for arthritis, joint pain, menstrual cramps, acute injuries, and chronic conditions. By the early 2000s, it had become one of America's most prescribed pain medications. And then on September 30th, 2004, the fairy tale turned into a scandalous autopsy. Merck abruptly announced a voluntary global withdrawal of Vioxx after post-marketing studies revealed that long-term, high-dose users faced significantly higher risks of heart attack and stroke compared to those on placebos or even traditional NSAIDs. The APPROVE trial, Adenomatous Polyp Prevention on Vioxx, was the smoking gun. After roughly 18 months of use, the risk of heart attack doubled. The safer pill for your gut was quietly waging war on your heart. The numbers that followed were nothing short of catastrophic. Analysts and even some internal FDA models estimated that between 88,000 and 139,000 heart attacks may have been triggered by Vioxx during its 5 years on the market, and 30 to 40% of those could have been fatal. That means tens of thousands of Americans may have died, not from their illness, but from the very pill meant to ease their suffering. But the withdrawal was only the opening act of a much darker story. What emerged next was a sprawling web of deception, lawsuits, and accusations that shook public trust in Big Pharma to its foundations. Merck was accused of more than just selling a dangerous drug. They were accused of hiding the evidence. In the Vigar trial, which compared Vioxx to naproxen, critics claimed Merck deliberately delayed or excluded cardiovascular event data to downplay the risks. Editors at the New England Journal of Medicine alleged that Merck had known about heart attack data before publication, but chose not to disclose it publicly. JAMA and NEJM editors accused the company of manipulating or omitting data to make Vioxx appear safer than it was. As if that weren't enough, Merck faced allegations of illegally promoting Vioxx for rheumatoid arthritis before the FDA had approved that indication, a violation of drug marketing laws known as misbranding. The company eventually settled with the US government over that offense, and then came the tidal wave of lawsuits. Thousands of individual claims and class actions poured in from families who had lost loved ones to heart attacks, strokes, or cardiac complications they believed were caused by Vioxx. In 2007, Merck agreed to pay roughly $4.85 billion to settle over 25,000 individual lawsuits and numerous class actions, one of the largest pharmaceutical settlements in history. Critics accused the company of dragging its feet, reacting too slowly to mounting cardiovascular evidence, and deliberately delaying the withdrawal to squeeze out more profit. Even Merck's internal investigation, led by former Judge John S. Martin Jr., known as the Martin Report, which concluded that leadership had acted in good faith, was widely dismissed by media and medical experts as self-serving and lacking transparency. The Vioxx scandal became a case study in how pharmaceutical marketing can sprint far ahead of ethics and safety. A grim reminder that painkillers, no matter how revolutionary they're marketed to be, can still turn deadly when profit takes the wheel. It showed that even billion-dollar drugs from household name companies are not immune to catastrophic failure. Today, Vioxx is cited in nearly every discussion about dangerous drug recalls and regulatory oversight, a ghost hovering over the pharmaceutical industry like a cautionary tale carved into stone. And that's the real punch in the gut. If a drug is heavily tested, marketed, and trusted as Vioxx could double your risk of a heart attack and claim tens of thousands of lives, what other painkillers are lurking out there with danger still buried under polished PR campaigns? For those looking for safer anti-inflammatory options, medications like celecoxib, meloxicam, or diclofenac, though not without their own risks, have not faced scandals of this magnitude, because in a world where even the gold standard can betray you, choosing the lesser evil might be the only defense left. Number 4. Tylenol. Few brand names are burned into America's collective memory quite like Tylenol, and not always for reasons its makers would want you to remember. It's the household painkiller that generations have trusted to ease fevers and headaches. The over-the-counter staple containing acetaminophen that sits in nearly every medicine cabinet. But behind that familiar red and white label lies one of the darkest chapters in US pharmaceutical history, and the shadows haven't stopped stretching. The first ghost still haunting Tylenol's legacy appeared in 1982, when Chicago was gripped by terror after 7 people dropped dead from extra-strength Tylenol capsules that had been laced with cyanide. The so-called Tylenol murders ignited nationwide panic, triggering a recall of nearly 31 million bottles. An unprecedented action at the time. Johnson & Johnson, Tylenol's parent company through McNeil Consumer Products, scrambled to pull every bottle from shelves, halted advertising, urged consumers to return their stock, and switched from tamper-prone capsules to solid tablets. Pharmacies and supermarkets across the country rushed to strip Tylenol from their aisles. The killer was never caught. Despite decades of investigation, no one has ever been charged with the murders, but the aftermath rewrote the rulebook for consumer safety. Tamper-resistant seals became mandatory, and federal law began treating product tampering as a serious crime. Even so, the incident permanently scarred the brand. For many Americans, Tylenol became synonymous with poison, a household name now forever linked to a nightmare. And while the company wasn't to blame for that specific crime, the stigma lingered, proving that once a product's trust is shattered, it's nearly impossible to glue it back together. Fast forward 4 decades, and Tylenol is again in courtrooms and headlines. This time not because of a murderer's hand, but because of what's inside the bottle. In recent years, more than 100 lawsuits have accused manufacturers and distributors of failing to warn about potential neurodevelopmental risks when acetaminophen is used during pregnancy. Families claim prenatal exposure may increase the likelihood of autism spectrum disorder, ASD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, in children. These cases were consolidated into a multi-district litigation, but federal judges have repeatedly dismissed them, most notably in December 2023 and August 2024, citing insufficient scientific evidence and unqualified expert testimony. Still, the lawsuits, and the media frenzy around them, left a stain on Tylenol's reputation, planting doubt in the minds of expectant parents and reigniting debates over drug safety. Then there's the old, grim fact that Tylenol has long been linked to liver toxicity. Acetaminophen overdose remains one of the leading causes of acute liver failure in the United States, sending more than 50,000 people to emergency rooms each year and causing numerous deaths or liver transplants. The danger often comes not from intentional misuse, but from accidental overdosing. People unknowingly combine multiple medications containing acetaminophen, crossing the toxic threshold without realizing it. The brand's legal headaches don't stop there. After Johnson & Johnson spun off Kenvo in 2023, the new company found itself defending Tylenol in a class action lawsuit, claiming that its rapid-release gel caps weren't actually faster acting than regular versions. A federal court dismissed the suit, ruling that labeling was governed by federal law under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. And just when Tylenol's image needed no more bruising, former President Donald Trump poured gasoline on the fire in 2025 by publicly warning pregnant women not to take Tylenol, claiming it could cause autism, a statement quickly dismissed by medical authorities as baseless, but one that nonetheless thrust the brand back into controversy. Tylenol may not have been recalled for carcinogenic impurities like benzene or nitrosamines, but it's hard to find another painkiller so thoroughly steeped in scandal. From the cyanide killings that forced sweeping safety reforms, to ongoing lawsuits over alleged neurodevelopmental risks, to its well-documented liver dangers and even disputes over its marketing claims, Tylenol has spent decades oscillating between trust and suspicion. It stands as proof that even the most ubiquitous over-the-counter painkiller can carry shadows too dark to ignore. And that's the chilling truth. If a product as familiar as Tylenol, something millions take without a second thought, can be linked to murders, lawsuits, organ failure, and controversy stretching into the present, what does safe even mean anymore? Those seeking gentler alternatives might consider options like aspirin, naproxen, or ibuprofen, each with its own risks, but none burdened with Tylenol's infamous legacy. Because in a world where even the medicine your grandmother swore by can carry ghosts from the past, blind trust may be the most dangerous drug of all. Number 5. Pain relief patches. They were marketed as a safer, simpler solution. No swallowing pills, no straining your liver. Just peel, stick, and let the pain melt away. But America's growing. Obsession with over-the-counter pain relief patches has recently collided head-on with a storm of recalls, lawsuits, and FDA warnings that expose just how flimsy that sense of safety really is. On March 26, 2024, the FDA issued a stark public warning urging consumers to avoid certain topical pain relief products after sending formal warning letters to 6 companies. These products, the agency said, were marketed with illegal claims, contained lidocaine concentrations higher than allowed for OTC use, or were sold as pre-procedure numbing treatments for cosmetic procedures. The problem wasn't just marketing hype. When used over large skin areas or on damaged skin, high lidocaine absorption can trigger heart rhythm disturbances, seizures, and even respiratory failure. The FDA's message was blunt: don't touch these products. Then came the bombshell recall. On December 6, 2024, Unexo Life Sciences Private Limited announced it was pulling millions of OTC pain relief patches from the U.S. market, citing quality issues ranging from poor adhesion to inconsistent delivery of active ingredients. That means some patches didn't stick properly, while others failed to deliver medication as promised. A 1-2 punch that could leave users in pain or unknowingly using more than they should. These weren't isolated cases. Class action lawsuits piled up against some of the biggest names in American retail. CVS agreed to a $3.8 million settlement in 2023 over allegations that its maximum strength lidocaine patches didn't last as long or work as advertised. Walgreens was dragged into court for labeling its 4% patches maximum strength, despite stronger 5% options existing on the market. Signature Care, the private label under Albertsons, was accused of selling patches that peeled off prematurely and failed to deliver relief. Viridian Healthcare, known for brands like TheraCare and HealthWise, faced similar suits after consumers claimed its patches often peeled off within hours, far short of the 12 hours promised on the label. Even Walmart wasn't immune. Consumers accused the retail giant of exaggerating the performance of its lidocaine patches, which were marketed with claims like "stay put" and lasts up to 12 hours, but frequently fell off during light movement. The common thread in all these lawsuits was simple. Companies were accused of misleading consumers who had no easy way to verify whether the product sticking to their skin was actually doing what it claimed. And that's where the danger deepens. Ineffective patches can push users to apply more, layer different products, or supplement with oral painkillers, raising the risk of overdose or drug interactions. The problems with pain relief patches don't stop at false advertising. These products might not contain carcinogens like benzene or nitrosamines, but their risks are just as real. FDA reports have documented cases where excessive absorption of lidocaine from topical products caused cardiac arrhythmias, seizures, and breathing difficulties, especially when used over large areas, under occlusion, or on broken skin. Combine that with inconsistent adhesion, unreliable dosing, and poor quality control, and you have a recipe for danger disguised as convenience. What's worse, the very selling point of these patches, their accessibility and over-the-counter availability, makes them even riskier because people assume they're harmless, and that assumption is exactly what corporate marketing preys on. They slap phrases like maximum strength and 12-hour relief on the box, banking on the fact that most consumers won't question it until the patch slips off 2 hours later or fails to numb anything at all. The result? A cascade of wasted money, untreated pain, and potential medical complications. The lawsuits and recalls paint a clear picture. This isn't just a few bad batches. It's a systemic problem in how these products are regulated, marketed, and trusted. That's why pain relief patches deserve a spot on any toxic alert list. They show that danger doesn't only lurk in pills with hidden impurities. It can be hiding right there in something as innocent as a sticker on your skin. And if companies can't even make a patch that stays put or deliver medication consistently, how much faith should we place in their claims about safety and strength? For those seeking topical pain relief without the baggage of false advertising or safety scandals, options like BioFreeze Gel, Salonpas patches, or Aspercreme creams may offer more reliable alternatives. Because when pain relief turns into a gamble, even a sticker can stick you with more risk than relief. Number 6. Bextra. It was supposed to be Pfizer's answer to the pain of aging America. A sleek new NSAID that promised powerful relief without the gut-wrenching side effects of older drugs. Approved in November 2001 under the brand name Bextra, valdecoxib was marketed as a modern solution for osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and menstrual pain. But less than 4 years later, on April 7, 2005, the dream collapsed. The FDA demanded Pfizer withdraw Bextra from the US market after mounting evidence showed the drug was far from the safe solution it was sold as. Studies revealed that patients, especially those on long-term or high-dose treatment, face significantly higher risks of heart attacks and strokes compared to those on placebos or traditional NSAIDs. Post-surgical patients, particularly those recovering from coronary artery bypass grafting, were hit hardest, showing alarmingly elevated cardiovascular event rates. And if heart failure wasn't enough, Bextra also carried the risk of life-threatening skin reactions like Stevens-Johnson syndrome, a condition so severe it can peel the skin off the body and leave patients fighting for their lives. By August 2, 2013, Pfizer itself requested and received the formal withdrawal of Bextra's new drug application for its 10 and 20 milligram versions, officially ending the drug's run. What was once hailed as a middle ground solution for patients who needed relief without risking stomach ulcers became a cautionary tale, a void in treatment that left doctors grappling with few options for patients who needed pain control without cardiac risk. But the story didn't end with the recall. In many ways, that was only the beginning. The downfall of Bextra was marked not just by scientific failure, but by corporate misconduct on a staggering scale. Pfizer was accused of aggressively promoting Bextra for uses not approved by the FDA, a practice known as off-label marketing, even as evidence of its dangers mounted. The result was one of the largest criminal and civil settlements in pharmaceutical history. In 2009, Pfizer agreed to pay a jaw-dropping $2.3 billion to resolve allegations of misbranding Bextra and other drugs like Celebrex. That included a record-setting $1.195 billion in criminal fines, an additional $105 million in forfeitures, and $1 billion in civil penalties under the False Claims Act for pushing Medicare and Medicaid to pay for prescriptions that should never have been written. Pfizer's subsidiary, Pharmacia and Upjohn, even pleaded guilty to violating the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act for intent to defraud or mislead. The fallout didn't stop there. 33 states joined lawsuits accusing Pfizer of off-label promotion, hiding negative studies, and cherry-picking favorable data to deceive doctors and patients alike. In 2008, Pfizer agreed to pay $894 million to settle thousands of individual and class action lawsuits from patients who suffered heart attacks, strokes, or other injuries. That payout included $745 million for individual injury claims, $60 million for state claims related to Bextra's marketing, and $89 million to resolve consumer fraud allegations. Even Pfizer's shareholders joined the fight, accusing the company of concealing safety data to protect its stock price. The company paid $486 million in 2016 to settle those claims. And then there was John Kopczynski, a former Pfizer sales rep turned whistleblower whose lawsuit under the False Claims Act helped expose the company's misconduct. Kopczynski received more than $51.5 million for his role in the case. His revelations painted a damning picture of a company willing to ignore safety warnings and push higher doses for unapproved uses just to boost profits. Investigations also revealed that Pfizer delayed releasing negative cardiovascular and dermatological data and dragged its feet on withdrawing Bextra, prioritizing revenue over patient safety. Bextra's story is more than just the fall of a drug. It's a textbook example of how corporate greed, deceptive marketing, and weak regulatory oversight can turn a miracle painkiller into a public health disaster. It proved that even the most reputable pharmaceutical giants can cross ethical lines, and that the label FDA approved can't always be trusted as a safety guarantee. And if a drug as heavily marketed and widely prescribed as Bextra could end in billion-dollar fines, lawsuits across 36 states, and a global withdrawal, what does that say about the painkillers still sitting on pharmacy shelves today? For those seeking alternatives, options like etidolac, celecoxib, or nabumetone, while not without their own risks, remain available and have not been marred by scandals of this magnitude. Because Bextra's rise and fall remind us of a brutal truth. In the world of pain relief, what starts as hope can end as a headline, and what starts as healing can end in handcuffs. The real danger isn't just in the pills, it's in our blind trust. Subscribe now to question everything deeper.